Hello everyone and welcome to the Eddie Proudfoot podcast. Today on our second episode we are going to talk about one of the most popular role-playing games out there today, which of course is Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, or D&D 5e for short. Now, Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition has been around since August of 2014. When it first came on the market there were 3 books: the Dungeon Master Guide, the Monster Manual, and the Player's Handbook. Since the release of these 3, there have been additional books published that are official D&D rulebooks as well as pre-written adventures. There's lots of fun additions that they brought into the game when these books were published. However, there's a lot of content and nuance that we're really not going to be able to delve into until we cover the basics. So we'll leave the content of those books for a later episode of the podcast. So today what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the one book that players probably need to be aware of, which is the Player's Handbook. You do not need to read all 317 pages. No sirree, ma'am. You just need to know where content exists in the book in order to use it effectively. It is a manual. Do not feel that you need to read the book cover to cover. In fact, I don't think many people have ever read the book cover to cover. Perhaps there are some fans of the game out there who do, in fact, do that, but I'd say the majority of players read the sections that apply to their character. So without further ado, we're going to go to the table of content. I should mention that you can find this book probably for free still online. If you just type in D&D 5e Player's Handbook PDF, you should be able to get a link that's just a free PDF copy of the book. Or if you would like the hard copy, go to your local game store. They should have one on the shelves there, as D&D 5th edition is very popular. So if we go to the table of content, we'll see that there are many sections to the book. It lays out these 3 that are called the Part 1, Part 2, and Part 3. Before that, there's a preface and an introduction, and then there's 5 appendices. The introduction is a very quick overview of role-playing games in general, how to use the book, and then it also gives some of the basic rules of the game. So just a few little nuggets to help you get going. So if you want to read something that's just a summary of the rules, read the introduction. It's only 5 pages, probably take you less than half an hour. Now, then there's Part 1 of the book. Part 1 is all the information you need to build your character. It has 6 chapters, and these go through all the different steps and all the different options that you have available. Part 2 is all of the rules you need when actually playing the game at the table with your friends. So this is going to be, it's 3 chapters, and it talks about things like how you move in the game, how you fight in the game, and how your dice rolls actually work. So it goes through all those rules. Then there's Part 3 of this book, which just has 2 chapters, one on how spells work and how to cast them, and then the second one is all the spells that are available for you from the Player's Handbook. That brings us then to the appendices. We have 5 appendices, one that talks about the different conditions you can get in D&D, like being poisoned, paralyzed, so on and so forth, and it talks about what those mechanics actually entail. The second appendix is on all the gods of the multiverse. The third appendix is how the plane structure of D&D works. It's definitely not necessary for first-time players to read, but it's interesting if you have the free time. Then there's Appendix D, which has all the creature statistics that you might have in the game. So if your party has a cat, if you guys have horses, then those are going to be the statistics for those animals. And then the last appendix, Appendix E, is just a inspirational reading list that have inspired the creators of D&D throughout the years. So if you're looking for some good fantasy novels, go to page 312 of the Player's Handbook. And then finally, there's an index which you can use to look up terms when you're going through the book. Because like I said, it's a manual, so not everything's explained in a linear order. Sometimes there'll be references to things later on in the book. So just use the index and look those terms up, and you should be able to find your answer. So that is an overview of the Player's Handbook. There is one thing I want to close with, because you cannot drive this point home far enough. Now, a lot of people will be intimidated when they first play D&D because it seems like they don't know all the rules and there's so many rules to learn, but I want to quote the preface here. So it says, "To play D&D and to play it well, you do not need to read all the rules, memorize every detail of the game, or master the fine art of rolling funny-looking dice. None of these things have any bearing on what's best about the game." This is a very true statement. It is something I think all first-time players should be exposed to, that knowing all the rules isn't what D&D is all about. Having fun, being creative, and spending time with friends. That's what D&D is all about. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Eddie Proudfoot podcast. If you enjoyed it, please follow us on Instagram, Spotify, or Twitter. And as always, may the gods have mercy on your soul.